Thanks, everybody. Welcome to Build. I'm your host, Ricky Camilleri. If you, like me, could not get enough of the Purge movies, we are in luck because the Purge is now a 10-episode miniseries airing on USA, and we have one of the stars of it here, Amanda Warren. Let's hear it for her, everybody. Very nice, thank you. You do it on cue, that's great. Let's take a look at the trailer for The Purge on USA.
We are just minutes away from the start of this glorious holiday. Tonight, we celebrate because we made this country great. Let the fun begin!
There must be something you need to purge.
It's Purge night. Anything goes.
Everybody, please welcome Amanda Warren. Hey. Thanks so much for being here. It's great to see you.
Thanks for having me.
I have known you for a few years now.
Yes,
I think I was one of your first interviews a while back, right?
Live interview ever.
First live interview ever, and I think it went well. You've returned, right?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, great.
Less espresso, though.
Okay.
So maybe not so much energy.
And I was interviewing you then for your part on The Leftovers,
Yes,
right?
you were.
Where you played the sheriff or the mayor of the town, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now we have you as a sort of financial analyst in The Purge,
Right.
and someone who has hired an assassin to do some work for her on it. Were you a fan of the movie? Did you know of the movie before?
I did. I had seen all three, and then I saw the fourth installment that was released this summer. And
You're a real deal fan.
Yeah, I enjoyed them. I enjoyed them. The horrific premise, and it's horrific, but we've really dived into character development and a meditation on the human condition. So I think that people who are fans of the franchise already will really enjoy themselves, and we dig a little deeper. So
when they when you auditioned for this, and when they reached out for you to be a part of this, what were your first thoughts? Were you worried about doing a TV show based on the movies, not knowing if you didn't know much about it?
No, I was like, awesome, franchise, straight to series. As a working actor, that's what you want. You want to work. So so just knowing, especially during the pilot season time where things are very much in flux, you see something that's been picked up straight to series, and there's a comfort in that. So you root for yourself a little harder when you know that things have already been picked up and settled in that way.
Yeah, you're like, let's do this.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
And you got to shoot the series in New Orleans, right?
I did.
Yeah.
My favorite city.
Mine too.
My home city, which is New York City. So.
Oh, I take New Orleans over New York personally, and I live in New York.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, I love New Orleans. I'm going back very soon. So.
For another shoot?
No,
just to go
spend time. Indefinitely, yeah. So.
What's it like shooting in New Orleans, though? I'd imagine it's pretty hard to stay sober, to stay as fit as you would like for the shoots, because when I'm in New Orleans, I gain at least 10 pounds in like 3 days.
Well, there are two things that are on my side, which I was struggling with in New York, but I welcomed and embraced wholeheartedly, which is I have celiac disease. So no carbs, no roux, no nothing. So everything had to be super healthy, and I don't drink anymore. So there are those two factors. So I have really exciting mocktails all the time, and there's plenty of time to wake up early while my friends are sleeping and work out, and I really
You have
enjoy
a whole different experience of New Orleans than I do.
I do, but I hang out with my buddies at the bars and everything like that. It's a good time all around. You don't have to eat a whole bunch and drink a whole bunch in order to enjoy that city. It's beautiful, and there's a festival every weekend, it seems like. Well, literally probably every weekend. So it's a great town, lots of culture, lots of really great vegan food too. I mean, it's all good. It's all great.
Now, your character in The Purge, as much as she's decided to take part in it, she has some regrets. What was it like playing someone who's sort of in the midst of very deep regret?
Well, it's interesting because you have to change with the changes as an actor anyway when the conflict comes into focus. So, I mean, that was really great with all the mayhem that goes around in Jane's world, and she's a really great woman, kind, strong moral compass, and when she realizes that maybe her decisions were not so much in the favor of of the community in which she works and is involved in, she tries to remedy that by going out. And then we see the consequences of all of those actions going out now and being a participant, whether you're being preyed upon or you're the predator itself. So, so yeah, there's a lot of exciting things for the audience, but it doesn't get so exciting for Jane. But there's a lot of trouble that she literally runs into once she leaves that building, which will happen in a couple of episodes.
So she leaves the building and is just sort of out on the night in the streets.
Yeah.
Right. Basically going
trying
kind of
to
like
make things right without giving too many things away, trying to make things right.
Is it kind of like, you know, the Warriors where she's bumping into different bad people as she's wandering around the streets?
Maybe. Yeah, maybe.
Tease it a little bit? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
Was this show, I know it's a 10-episode kind of mini-series event. Was it the case where you guys block shot it and everything was written beforehand, or?
I know Tom Kelly had, when we started pre-production in May, he had 9 episodes already locked, already written, and with a strong outline for the season finale. So they had that, and they ideally wanted to block shoot the last 2 episodes, which we did with Ernest Dickerson, and then we block shot, the first 2 episodes with Anthony Hemingway, who's fantastic. So we had 2 great directors block shooting, and for those of you who don't know, block shooting is 2 episodes at a time, usually with the same director because it makes life a little easier. They do that on House of Cards, which I was guest star on in the most recent season that aired. So yeah, I mean, it's got its advantages.
Ernest Dickerson was Spike Lee's original DP.
Yes.
He shot She's Gotta Have It, I believe. Or
Yeah.
I'm not sure but he said Do the Right Thing.
Well, Do the Right Thing, if I'm not mistaken, Malcolm X.
Yeah.
I mean, some real masterpieces. And then if it wasn't him, it was another cinematographer that I worked with on Mother, Matty Laboutique.
Yeah, he shoots
amazing. Yeah, amazing. So to have worked with those 2 men in the span of 18 months was a real gift and real learning experience. I mean, I've worked with some great cinematographers in the past 18 months with Ben Davis from 3 Billboards, Matty Laboutique, and then Bob Ellsworth on Roman J. Israel Esquire. Yeah. I mean, that's an education.
Those are heavy hitters.
Itself. Yeah, really heavy hitters.
What do you learn from a DP that you may not learn from a director, or that you may not learn from a theater director or something else? What do you learn specifically from a DP while you're shooting?
Coming from the stage, the spatial relationship between the lens and your person kind of changes. That might be the only monumental difference, is that there's literally a medium between you and the audience, which is the lens. But just working with the lens and which angles might support the story and what they're trying to say in that frame before they turn around. A turnaround is just like a different angle, different frame in the scene. So that, and then after you work with those kinds of heavyweights, you can feel where the camera is and where you shift, and you can feel how it's supposed to go. So if they're on this angle and maybe you're with a prop or a rod or something, how does that look? You know, this being all the way up front and this being in the background, the foreground, and it starts to become a shorthand, you know, and a really beautiful dance. You know, you get your direction from your director, the guide, and then you have your DP with the lighting and everything like that. And let me just say, Kevin McKnight, he was a brilliant DP, and he made everything look super expensive on this show. Like, yeah, because as people may very well know, Blumhouse is a low budget studio, and they thrive off of that. But that doesn't mean that things don't have to look, you know, high quality. And we do some really great quality work, and Kevin McKnight has been awesome with that.
You know, I have to ask, you brought up Mother and working with Matthew Laboutique and Darren Aronofsky.
I only say Maddie because Spike says
Spike says Maddie, yeah. I mean, I was going to say Maddie, but I don't feel it's not my...
But Spike can make you feel so comfortable when you talk to him. So
whenever I've brought up Laboutique to him, he goes, Maddie Laboutique.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He has a whole way of saying it, and Spike's great.
But what was it like shooting Mother? If I remember correctly, your scenes were primarily in the end.
Mm-hmm.
When all fucking hell broke loose. And that movie opened wide up and became, I mean, it was kind of crazy before, but then it becomes as crazy as it could possibly become.
Yeah.
Fever dream.
It is. It's in a lot of ways like a fever dream. And
Hence choreography.
Yeah, yes, and Darren and I have the same alma mater, which is NYU, right down the block. And
Le Boutique as well? I think
I believe we all three went to at different times or whatever. But I never got the script. Like, I just went in to do a scene. So in a lot of ways, it felt experimental, like I was doing some sort of acting exercise with one of the greatest directors in cinema. So, you know, it was one of those things where I didn't know what it was about. I had the set to inform me, I had the words to inform me, and I had my guide, which was Darren, and wonderful scene partners like Javier Bardem and Jennifer. So with that, it was kind of eyes wide shut. This is what it is. If you have a question, ask him and he'll answer it. And that's kind of the way it went. And then we did something called an ADR session, which is like sound looping if they don't pick up on something or they need to insert something. We did that, and that was very active as well. It was, you know, me like, you know, heaving and breathing heavily. So working with Darren is a beautiful experience. It's great.
When you shot in the end of that film, how long were you there for the shoot?
I think I was there for about a week, and I believe I shot 1 or 2 days, if not just one really heavy day, and I was held for a day. But we really put our work in, and the set was just beautiful. It was a lot of dust, a lot of protective masks, and because, you know, we were breathing in a lot of stuff, but it was great. It was being in the trenches, literally. It was very NYU.
I'm almost 100% positive that last sequence isn't like a oneer or anything like that, and there's a lot of cutting happening, but it's still an intense amount of choreography going from room to room, and walls coming down, and riot police coming in, and people coming in, and like refugees in cages all of a sudden in one room.
Yeah.
What was it like, I mean, organizing that? Or was it simply just like, this is your part of this, know this, and don't worry about anything else?
No, Darren just informed me with the information that I needed for the character. And the scene was pretty long. I mean, as long as we can make it. So there's a point where I'm coming through a crowd without giving too much away. To those of you who haven't seen it, I'm coming through a crowd.
It's on Hulu. Watch it.
Yeah, and I'm trying to help a particular person, and then someone else kind of comes in, and then there's a door that's shut. And we did that I think in a long sequence, you know, with Maddie there. Quite capable of shooting that. So that was pretty intense, because we did all of that, if I'm not mistaken, in one shot, and then we just did the turnarounds.
And now, another project that you mentioned briefly was 3 Billboards, which is such a great movie.
Yeah.
It's so great. And that's your second movie with McDonagh, who, you know, for those who don't know, he's not only a filmmaker, he's also one of the greatest living playwrights currently. Was the first time you met him with 7 Psychopaths, and then he hired you on for 3 Billboards after that as well?
Yes, we met, I had just come from actually a meeting with Spike in Los Angeles, and my people sent me to a casting director that he works with, Sarah Finn, and she just she told Martin about me, that she had met me, and that there was a character that she thought I could play in 7 Psychopaths. Originally, I was only supposed to play young Maggie, and I tend to play women who are way older than me, like, you know, Terrell McCraney and I went to Yale together, and I played a woman named Aunt Elegua, and she was like 110 or something, and I was like, really, Terrell? And he was like, really? So, I
remember the first time I interviewed you for The Leftovers, and you were playing the mayor of the town. And
I was like 42, and I was 29 when I got that part. So yeah, I play women who are older than me in age, but yeah, so by the end of our meeting, he had some raw reads. I was just starting out, and you know, just some self-tape auditions, and he saw something in that because I didn't have a real professional reel at the time, and he really had confidence in me that I could do it, and we've never really looked back since, and I'm very happy to call him a friend, too.
Yeah, I love that you were in 3 Billboards and you got to have those scenes with Frances McDormand. But
yeah, who's like my big sister. She's great.
I want Martin McDonagh to write, like, the movie for you or the part for you. I think that would be so cool to see you get a role like that.
I think so too.
Let's let him know. Let's
Yeah,
Martin
let's let him
McDonagh, if
know.
you're watching from an Irish house somewhere while you're being away on
he
another
tends
play.
to travel a lot, which is why we don't get a lot of movies from him. But then again, that's, you know, you're living life so that you can tell the story of lives, you know, and he tells really strong stories, but he's a world traveler a lot of the time. But I will definitely email him and let him know that Pretty Ricky with the good hair says...
Whole based off of that, he'll remember me.
Yeah, exactly. But I'll let him know. That's so sweet of you to say. Yeah.
What is it like doing the dialogue for a movie like 3 Billboards, which is so specific and I would say, I would dare to say theatrical in a lot of ways. He writes movies like a playwright writes movies.
Yes, he
and
does.
I love it for that. I love them for that reason. I know other people can kind of be thrown off by that, but I really enjoy that aesthetic.
Yeah, I do too. I'll tell you right now, the most challenging line for me to say was what they used in those trailers was, you go girl, you go fuck with those cops. Right. And it was very important to Martin that we say it in a certain way. And at the time, being in it, because, you know, you've got 1,000 thoughts in your head on the day of filming, and, you know, there's this powerhouse of a woman in front of you, and then, you know, this guy named Woody Harrelson waiting to do the next scene with you with this other guy named Sam Rockwell, and, you know, and then it gets exciting, but you just don't want to be that person who's not ready, even if you've prepared the night before to play on the day. And so I was trying to...
all very down to earth. I mean, in terms of
super
big name
down
actors,
to earth
those are
people.
like the most down to earth.
Super down to earth people. It doesn't get any better than that. Very approachable, really warm, kind, genuine people. The best you'll ever meet. And, you know, for some reason, it was just, you know, Martin doesn't do a lot of takes, but it was just so... For some reason, it was just really important to say that line in a certain way, and without putting any errors on it or anything like that. So it got a little tricky for me. My inner critic started to come up a little bit, but then you think about all the trust that you have around you, and that Martin keeps in really great company, and he likes to use the same company of actors as much as possible, that you just kind of throw it away. And then when I stopped caring, that's what you guys got in the final cut. So
you said that Frances McDormand's like your big sister now?
Yeah, she is. She and I both went to Yale different times, so we both went to Yale. And I saw her and Willem Dafoe in a Wooster Group presentation when Richard Schechner was my professor at NYU Tisch for a theater studies program. And he, if I'm not mistaken, was one of the founders of Wooster Group. So, I mean, just talking to her about approach and her asking me about, you know, just certain things with the loss of a child. Not that I would know about that. She's a mother, I'm not. But it was just nice to be treated like an equal with a woman who's done so much and has lived such a life, I'm sure, you know, professionally and I'm assuming personally. It's just, it was really nice that she was so embracing and encouraging of all of her scene partners and just so inclusive.
When you're working with someone like her or like Denzel in Rome and Israel or Woody Harrelson, do you ask questions about how they do it in their craft, or do you kind of...
No, I just
watch
talk
and
to
learn?
people like that. I just talk to people like that. I find that I mean, it's great to hear people, but you really want to listen to people like that. And I take pride that I'm a really good listener, and just I like to watch and observe, just like how I like to watch the cinematographers that I work with. It's the same thing with Woody, Sam, Fran, or Mr. Washington. So yeah, I mean, I just like to start out with a super casual conversation, and they're pretty okay with that because they're very casual, down-to-earth people. And then I'll just watch them work, and if a question comes up, then a question comes up. But usually what they put out there, it's pretty easy to absorb and to understand because it's so effortless and genuine. They just get up there and they tell the truth in their story and stay true to that. So that's the real lesson. I find that it's almost like listening to them and watching them is almost like looking at an image where it's worth 1,000 words. You don't really need to explain what a picture is. It's kind of like that.
What do you think it is about you as an actress, which is going to be an impossible question for you to answer?
Well, I'm looking forward to you asking.
That makes great directors want to work with you in some capacity, be they small roles in their projects or big roles in their projects. Because you look at the films that you've been in, the majority of them are from directors like Martin McDonagh, Darren Aronofsky, Tony Gilroy. You know, you had The Leftovers. Dan Gilroy, excuse me, Tony's his brother.
Yeah, all the Gilroys, and the other Gilroy edited.
Yeah, exactly.
Roman,
and and then you're in and then you're in The Leftovers with, Damon being run by Damon Lindelof. I always wonder if these people are usually looking for actors and actresses that also can get what they're trying to say, rather than just sort of show up on the day, hit their marks, and be good on camera, are also part of the team in a bigger way and get the larger message of what they're trying to do with their projects.
Well, I'm always about the collaboration and that the story comes first. I remember when Damon called me and had that conversation that most showrunners eventually have to have with certain actors who play characters who won't be returning for the next season. And it's a very difficult conversation, usually for the showrunner more than for me. And he felt some sort of way about, having to move on from Lucy. But I told him, I said,
He also moved on from the town in a lot of ways.
Well, he burned the town down. He burned the town down. So there were a good handful of us that weren't returning. And I told him, I just said, there comes a time, Damon, where you put it out there and the story's bigger than you and it's bigger than me and it's bigger than the studio or HBO, and that's what's got to come first. So I've always been highly collaborative and always about the story. No matter what happens, it's got to be about the story. Once it doesn't become about the story and it becomes about something else, which 8 times out of 10 is usually pretty superficial and, about marketing or something like that, that's when we start to lose the story and lose what's important,
Do you also seek specifically projects with directors and writers that you're aware of and admire?
Yes, but more so than anything, it's always about the story. So if I haven't heard of the person and, if I speak with them and I know that the story is their priority too, I say, let's go, let's do it. Because that's where it begins. Everyone has to start from somewhere. So it's not always about, working with the biggest names, although they're big names because they do a certain, level of work, which is great. So, but yeah, I've always been about the story. But yeah, keeping in great company is always what I've wanted. In fact, that was the title of my personal statement for Ron Van Leeuwen at the Yale School of Drama's, In Good Company. That's all I've ever wanted to do. Really? And that's all I try to do.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. Let's get some questions from our audience. Who's right here?
Yay.
Oh, right here. You.
Hi. So I am studying film at NYU, actually. And,
oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
So you're at 721.
Yes.
Okay, great.
This semester I'm focusing on horror, and as I was reading one of the screenplays, alone, I was so freaked out. And so I'm wondering what it's like for you to act in something like The Purge or Mother, if you get scared when you go home at night, if you have any nightmares, or just how those roles affect you, if they do.
I think what's important about genre, especially with The Purge, is that the premise is horrific. I think that's what puts it in that category. But it's always a meditation on the human condition. If you can always find what's humane about the situation, about the characters, there's nothing too scary about that. But then when you go home and hindsight's 20/20, it's like, whoa, that was pretty scary, But as far as me being scared or spooked in character, if someone has to come up to a door and scare me, like you saw Asmarie do in episode 1, if you guys watched that this week, you know, I told Anthony, I said, don't tell me when she comes. Like, don't do it. Like, cause it'll be premeditated for me. So I know what I'm capable of. I speak with the people that I'm working with to let them know what I need from them. And if they need something from me, let's try to work that out. But yeah, I mean, and and then when that happens, I'm genuinely scared. And my screams suck. They sound like they're sissy screams, like, ah! And then my hands go like, I don't know, it's weird. But it's real, and that's what happens. But no, I don't find myself too spooked out by what I've done. There was one episode where it just really wore me down, which is later on in the season. That just really wore me down. I can't talk too much about it, but I would love to speak about it later, about process and things like that. But there are things that'll come at you and kind of rip at the seams, you know, sort of at the end of the day. And I just remember all I wanted to do was just shower the entire day. Like that was it. That was all I wanted to do. I didn't want to eat anything. I didn't want to lay down. I just wanted to wash off the day. And so there are things that were
days like that.
Yeah, where you just, you know, it's kind of like a cleansing thing. And I always find showers to be quite meditative for me and therapeutic. You know, you're just cleansing off whatever's tried to latch onto you for the day. And you never want to, Frank Langella always taught me, you never want to take home your character like that, you know. A shout out to people who work in the method kind of way, but I'm one of those people where it's healthiest for me to let it go when the red light or the stage lights go off and I go into the wings or I go into my dressing room, my honey wagon trailer, whatever it is, and I let it go. So if I can't do that, if I'm feeling a little weird and, you know, I'm extraordinarily quiet, you know, I'll take a shower, and that's all I wanted to do that day. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it gets weird, but you have to check in with yourself and have that kind of time. Yeah, thanks for your question.
Next question right here.
So you've been in so many amazing movies and TV shows, and I was wondering how your method or process changes between shooting a movie and maybe shooting a show.
Well, I mean, for one instance, Letitia Wright and we didn't have any, like, on-screen time together. We didn't literally share the screen together, but Letitia really wanted to Skype a lot, you know, and talk about the nature of Texas, you know, and the premise of that episode of Black Museum, for those of you who may have seen it. And it was really important to her to speak about it. And we got a little, for lack of a better word, we got a little academic with it. She had worked with a teacher of mine, Beth McGuire, on this little movie called Black Panther. And, you know, so I reached out to Beth, and you know, it gets collaborative at certain points, and then you just never really see the person when you get on set. So it depends on the nature of the situation. That was my first time going overseas to London and Spain, and I saw her once when she was wrapped and I was coming in, and that was pretty much it. But it depends on how the director likes to do things and where the writing, the story is always the priority, where that leads you.
Amanda, it's so good to see you.
It's good to
Thanks
see
for
you
coming
too.
by. The
Thanks
Purge
for having me.
Premieres on USA. When does it premiere?
No, it premiered on Tuesday.
Tuesday?
Yeah, 10/9 Central, and every Tuesday after that. So yeah.
Amanda Warren, everybody.
All
Let's
right,
hear
thanks. Thanks a lot, guys. Thank you.